Alright guys, got a how-to video on the door cable for the 92 to 97 F-Series pickups. This here is a F-350 with the diesel 4-wheel drive. The door cable assembly would be similar if you had a 250 or even a 150. This truck's 95. Got a few miles on it, 150 or so, but it's still kind of a youngster. Did I mention how I feel about these trucks? I think this pretty much sums it up. That one right there has got about 320, still doing real well, but it's seen its share of door cables as well. Anyway, we're going to start by removing this inner panel here and get into the function underneath there, the mechanics, what makes this door open and close. And the problem is that the cable in there stretches over time, gets too long, and so instead of opening at, say, right here, you end up having to lift all the way up, and you end up pulling and stretching, and as that cable gets longer, and what happens is the little mechanism right inside here that you'll see here in a little bit starts, you have to pull hard enough that it starts tearing out the metal of the door. You don't want to do that. You know, some guys will try and weld that up, but it's a very thin piece of metal. You'd have to be really, really good at welding to make that work. And even then, who's to say that you're not just going to develop a new crack right along the side of your new weld. So we'll go over some other possible ways of fixing that to ensure that even if your door has torn in there on the inside, we'll still make it work. Still keep the door opening and closing well. Alright, so next step, first step is pull this door panel off. It's secured by a bunch of Phillips screws. You got one right in here, one right here, and multiple down here that you pull. On the inside there's a connector, a little wire connector going to this light. You'll have to disconnect, and also there's a connector up here for your door lock controls, windows. And then there's a bolt right here on the door handle that I've gotten loose. So I usually just pull this off first, and just start in there. A couple tools. I've got a typical box end wrench, and then just a little ratcheting wrench, pretty handy, and then a standard just 1/4-inch drive socket. The bolt head is 5/16 or 8mm, same thing, and are close enough that you can use either size socket or wrench and it'll work. But just reach in there and start backing that off. And I like to keep a finger on that bolt head as I'm pulling it off, so that when it does clear the mechanism that it attaches to, the bolt doesn't fall down in the door. Saves time over having to go fish. But it will teach you patience. So this is the door handle, and you know, back in the 80s, early 80s, they were making these out of metal. I'm sure they're trying to save money, and now they're all plastic and break frequently, typically right down here. You go to the dealer and get them. I can't remember, it's like 15 bucks or something, or Napa. I've been getting them at Napa lately, and they work just as well. I'll stick the bolt back in there. Kind of helps me keep track of what came from where. Important concept if you're new to vehicle repair is memorize how it came apart. Makes the whole thing going back together a whole lot easier, and works out real well as long as somebody else hasn't worked on that part of the vehicle prior and put it back together all wrong and cross-threaded stuff. You just start pulling screws these will rattle loose. They basically just thread into the sheet metal inside there. So you end up having to tighten them, or I don't know, find some way of securing them. I haven't found a real good way yet to do that. But like I said, working on vehicles will teach you patience. And it's just kind of some pressed in pieces. We call them Christmas trees because they look like a Christmas tree. They get bigger at the base and a lot of times break as you take the door apart, so try and be very careful. If you need to, you can go down to a parts store and get new ones, but it's a lot better to not break them in the first place. Okay, so just a couple more screws here. We've pulled all the other screws from the door. Just working on these. There's your wiring harness. A whole ton of wires just for 4 windows and a couple door locks, but that is what's required. This one here you won't see on your truck. Somebody working on this at some point put this in there to help hold the this assembly here to the piece of the fascia of the cover. There, that comes off. And then you can kind of sneak that down through there. If you pull as you pull the panel off. Okay, kind of push that down in there. So it's kind of a fight to get these Christmas trees, since I don't know the actual term. That's what we always call them in the shop. Kind of a fight to get them all out, get this thing all freed up. But and you may break a few, so you may have to get some more. But that's okay. That's what a parts store's for. Alright, so we got all got it unscrewed. We just kind of lift it off, lift the door panel off, feed this assembly out through here, and just kind of let it hang down. And then you've got this other connector down in here, just kind of a cam lock to lock it in so it comes out real easy. If this hasn't been working lately, it's a good time to replace the bulb. There it is. Just presses in. You can see there, well, you may not be able to see there, but it's got a part number there, GE 168. Or you can just take it with you into the parts store and say, hey, I need a pack of these. You can replace that and get this light working down here. So now you're done with the door panel. You just kind of set it aside out of the way. This stuff comes off. Sometimes I wonder what the guys are thinking when they come up with their ideas for stuff, but maybe 5 years is the goal for them. I'm not sure, but that can be reattached once you're putting it all back together. I've just used some old silicone that was old enough and getting dry that I didn't trust using on any application that mattered. And I just kind of put it on there to hold it on. Serves as glue. Then you can pull it off. But you'll have to move it out of the way for this. So here's your mechanism here, and you see this is where your door handle attaches, just like that. Bolt comes through there, threads into this nut here, and when you pull that door handle, you're lifting this up. You know, maybe we can do it. Anyway, you're pulling up like that. Hinges here, pulls your cable, which runs down over to this mechanism here. And that's pretty much what opens and closes the door. That's the entire mechanism that's in its entirety. And we're going to replace the whole thing. Best thing, in fact, the only option I know of is going down to the dealer. It's pricey for the whole mechanism. It's about 150, 60 bucks, depending on your dealer and where their prices are set. But it's the entire mechanism. It's the latch mechanism here, and the cable. Everything that controls the opening and closing of the door is going to be brand new. So in that regard, it's cool, you know. It's not like you got the old door where it's all rattly and not secure. No, it'll be good there too. Another thing you want to look at is right here. This is kind of a plastic bushing, and that's what the door kind of comes in and latches on and holds it shut. It's got a let me come around here. It's got a Torx tip there, Torx head. So you'd need a Torx socket, but you can back that off, loosen it up, and you can even adjust it. The hole here is bigger, and so it's designed to be adjusted to hold the door higher or lower, whatever the case may be. But this bushing here can wear out if you've got a pickup with 300, 400,000 miles, and a lot of guys do. These are good trucks, and a lot of guys want to keep them running, and so this will wear out, and this can cause some rattle. You can go down to the dealer or your parts store. Your parts guy may have to do some digging, because I don't know that too many people are buying these, but you can get these and replace them and keep this fit tight, seal it off. So that door is held tight against your seal here. This is coming off. If it's coming off, you can do some weather stripping adhesive, available at your parts store. Get it glued back down. That's some really good stuff. You can also buy replacement stuff. I don't know, where you could, maybe a parts store, LMC truck, they've got stuff like that, and you can get the stuff there. All right, so here is the new part. This is the new part from Ford. This is the mechanism that sits right there. As you can see, they've from the factory done a real good job. There's grease there on the cable, grease here on the hinge points. It's all ready to go. It's good stuff, good equipment. So that's the piece on your door. This is your latching mechanism. The bolts just inside of here, and then this runs up to the top. This is your door lock unlock rod. So that's basically the part we're looking at. 150, 60 bucks, whatever it is at your local dealer, but well worth it if you want to keep these trucks going. So we start out, looks like it's a 10 millimeter right here. Pretty simple to pull this guy off. Reach through with my offhand here, and looks Looks like feels like there's some stuff in there on the inside. Maybe somebody's done this before. I don't know. We'll see when we get this thing out. Yeah, looks like somebody has got a piece of plate right there, which is awesome. Saves me from having to make a new one. Just reuse this one. This bolt comes out. The kit did not come with a new one, so we'll hang on to that. But basically what happens, and you can see it's already started, this piece right here hooks underneath that piece of sheet metal, and then you secure it with your bolt right through there. Well, as you pull and that cable stretches, and I don't know what it is, human nature, the door's not opening, so let's just try and force it. So everybody sits there and just pulls harder. Well, as you can see, where this attaches to this, it just starts cracking. This one's actually not too bad. I've seen them where the cracks are a lot worse, but still, at any rate, it's coming through to here to here. It's cracking all around, and it's very, very thin sheet metal. So you want to be proactive with these door cables and not wait until it's hard to open, because you're just going to tear it up. So what somebody's done is they've just made a plate, put it right behind there, and then this bolt goes right through there, and instead of this little surface area here of very thin metal, you've got a big plate back here. Basically you're using more of the door, more metal. It's going to be a stronger thing. Good idea, good fix right there. I prefer it over the weld. Then we'll just grab a screwdriver, come out to here, start breaking these screws loose. And you really can make these things, I mean, this repair can be as good as new. It can feel good, new, clean, tight, quiet as you go down the road. I don't know, the American mindset is 100,000 miles, throw it out, buy a new one. I don't particularly subscribe to that. I've got lots of cars, well, not lots of cars, lots of miles on my cars, and we do all right, we do just fine. You can look at aviation. I've flown Otters made in the 60s, twin Otters with 80,000 hours on them, and wasn't worried at all about the maintenance on them. Wasn't worried about whether or not I was safe. It's just whether or not the owner decides to maintain it, keep it like new. Alright, okay guys, we're moved into the garage here today. It's pretty windy outside, so we're going to keep going here with the project in the garage. But as far as getting your latching mechanism out of the door, did come across this bolt. This bolt goes through the door panel and bolts into the bottom of the window track. And getting this thing out of the way, you won't be able to pull it completely out of the door, but you can at least, it'll flex and it'll move over to the side and allow you to move around that latching assembly in there. We've, as you saw earlier, we've got it pulled and unscrewed from the door. What's left inside there, here's the new part. What's left inside there is, you've got these two parts on the latch, and these are actuated. One's actuated by the door handle to open it, and the other one is your key lock. This is the one, your key to lock and unlock. And of course, this rod here goes up to your interior lock unlock. So that's what we're working on. We're working on disconnecting this arm and then this arm, and then with, now that this track will move around and give us some freedom, some legroom, so to speak, we can sneak that thing out of there. So there's our old mechanism there, door latch mechanism. Got it out of the door. As you can see, these arms, connecting rods, whatever you want to call them, they're still attached. What I ended up doing to get it out of the door is, instead of disconnecting them from the latch mechanism itself, I disconnected those rods from the other ends, the other things they connected to. So one was up here to the door lock. This piece slides in just like this, and then I'm trying to do this one-handed. You can see there the rod fit through there, and this fits in through the door like that, and is then held in place by this here. So I ended up pulling it out, and then pulled this out a little bit, just kind of finagled it. I had it right about here, and then I was able to get a flathead screwdriver in there and disconnect this, unhook this plastic piece from the lock. And that right there is the entire lock. I pulled that plastic piece off, it stayed on the arm, and pulled it off later. Then in here, you can see down in there, maybe, very, very bottom corner here, which if you're looking at it from out here is going to be right here, is the power lock mechanism. So it's got that rod there, and it, in fact you can see it coming up right there. It comes up, does a 180-degree turn, and it hooks on to one lever on the latch mechanism. There's another one coming up here to the door handle. You had to unhook there, and that's it. That's how I ended up getting that all off. And then it's pretty much just a matter of transferring this stuff over. So we got a couple lubricants here, which is really good for this kind of thing. We got white lithium grease. It sprays on with some solvents. That stuff dries, evaporates, and then leaves the grease. That's a pretty darn good grease there. This silicone spray is great as well, but it isn't. It doesn't stick around as long. Doesn't last as long. So it's probably a real good grease for like your door locks, you know, your key locks. You can pry, you know, open those up, spray some of that in there if your key locks aren't working well or smoothly. Anyways, like $5 each one down at Napa. I'm sure the other parts stores have got their equivalent. So we'll transfer this over. Another thing I like to do when I'm getting in any doors or you're working on windows or anything, you've got window tracks and the like up in here. As the window goes up and down, this arm will move through this track. That stuff always needs grease. It always needs to be lubricated. So I'll usually get in there and use this lithium grease and spray it up in there, keep that window track moving well, because if it doesn't, somebody's just going to force it and damage it, and then you got to fix that. So always better to keep it lubricated. Alright, so we've got the latch mechanism back inside the door. I kind of hold it in place, get these screws started. Before I get anything real tight, I make sure this mechanism is where it should be. And then once it is, I've looked at things on the inside, there's nothing pinched in between it and the door here. We're good to go. We can tighten this up. So we just snug these down good and tight. Nothing too crazy, it's just a Phillips head. Last thing we want to do is strip those out. And once that's secure, we can come back over here and start working on putting this back in place. Those spray lubricants are great. Use them on pretty much anything that's moving with these doors: tracks, cables, hinges, hood latches, door latches. Use it everywhere. That you can spray that silicone spray, or they even make a key spray, a lock spray, and you can spray that in your trunk lock here on your door, and it'll surprise you how much better stuff starts working. Now what we've got, what was here in the truck was this little backing plate here. When you go and make your own, it's going to be a better idea to use a great big one here that'll cover up more surface area. You obviously don't have to, especially if you're proactive with the replacement of these cables, replacing them when they should be. It's not going to be as big a deal, but if you're going to make something, why not make something that's this size of this piece here. So we bring this up, engage this in that little piece of, under that little piece of sheet metal there, and we'll put this back here. And start the bolt. Okay, so we've got our mechanism secured here. Got the bolt plate on the back, and it's all ready to go. So now we just pretty much everything's been greased, everything's back in place. We're just a matter of putting this back on. So now you can use whatever you want. I've seen duct tape on here before. That doesn't work well. But the silicone seems to work real well. That's what my other truck, that one that has 320,000 miles, that's what I've used on it. And the plastic stays when using silicone. So gonna just put this on and then put this sheet back up, and then we'll be on to putting the door panel back on. Okay, so we're going to put the door panel back on. We got our new bulb. Put that guy in there. And that's obviously a lot better than the first one we had. We'll just cam lock it in here. And there we go. And after that, we're feeding this back up through here. And putting everything back in place. And then from there, it's just reverse of removal. You know, you've got your screws down here, run along the bottom, one over here. We'll just push those Christmas trees back in through their holes. Everything will snap back into place. Got a screw up here, and then we'll finish putting this fascia stuff on right here, and be good to go. But that's pretty much it.